All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're excited to see you again.
Yes.
For the Hill Duvernay and Associates monthly webcast.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Good to see you again.
Yeah. So for those who don't know us, my name is Nicole Carter.
And I'm Candace Lynn Hill Duvernay. I know that's a lot, but that's who I am.
All right. And Candace is managing partner of Hill Duvernay and Associates.
Yes.
And I am a friend and a fan and help out with some other initiatives that they have. And one that we're really excited to talk about today is mediation to stay married.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about mediation to stay married. I've been itching. If you all are Facebook friends, you've seen me posting about it. If you are following the newsletter, you've seen it. Now we can really get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. All right. So this is a service that you launched just recently.
Yes.
In terms of really doing a marketing push and letting people know about it. So just kind of give us a high level overview, and as we talk, we'll go into the nitty gritty details, but what is mediation to stay married?
Okay. Well, if you all recall from the last broadcast, and if you don't, mediation is just a process where people who have conflict come together with a third party neutral to resolve that conflict. Mediation to stay married is just that. It's mediation, the mediation process used to help married people come together to resolve their marital conflict, whether that be things related to communication, things related to finances, child rearing, whatever the marital conflict is. We try to help people who are going through and right at the brink of divorce stop and say, hey, can we work this out? Can we work through this conflict? I love you. Can we stay married? And what I believe is mediation to stay married is going to help a whole lot of people work their marriages out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is great. And again, I'm excited as we're going to talk some more about it, just because we're all hearing about the stats in terms of the divorce rates.
Yes.
And so when there is another resource out there to kind of help keep people together who can make it work,
yes,
who have the potential,
yes,
that's always great. So I have to ask this question, which is, you have been a divorce attorney before and
yes,
are. So
I still am, but
yeah,
yes.
So how did you get involved now with keeping marriages together?
Right. Well, anybody who knows my practice knows that I practice criminal law, family law, and personal injury. And a lot of what we see in family law is people who want to get divorced. But what I found in dealing with these couples is that a lot of them would come to me saying, we're so far gone, but I wish we had something that could have helped us. People were saying, we tried counseling, that didn't work, but I love them, but if we could just get over this, we could be okay. Mm-hmm. A lot of times there are people who are so far gone that they're going to have me help them separate their divorce and move on with their life. But some people come to me and they would say, man, if he would do this or if she would do that, we would be very good. And I found out about mediation to stay married. This is not my brainchild. I didn't create this. However, I realized nobody was really doing it. And I said, well, if this is a chance for people who seemingly want to stay together, they can actually work on their marriages, I'm all for it. There are some people that are just not going to work out in divorce. And that's why we do represent couples who need us. But for some people, some of you all may be out there saying, I don't want a divorce. I just need to figure out how am I going to deal with this man mm-hmm. or this woman? How am I going to make these things work? And what we do is we use the mediation process to help couples work through their marital conflict.
Okay. So what is, and I'm going to, okay, wait, sorry. Time out. We're going to take a quick pause. For those who are watching this live right now, we are going to be taking questions. So we do have Q&A opportunities. You can email us. We're going to be checking the Gmail account mm-hmm. for Hill Duvernay. So it's hillduvernay@gmail.com.
Yes.
Or connect with Hill Duvernay and Associates, the Facebook page. And you can post your question there, and we will check that as well periodically. You'll see me messing with the computer. So if you have any questions in between, let us know, and we'll get to them.
Definitely.
But until then, I'm going to take up all the time and ask the questions that I want to ask.
Right.
So, but this next question, though, we know is a really popular one. Mm-hmm. As we started promoting it, I know you've gotten a lot of this question many times. So what is the difference between mediation and marital counseling?
Yes, everybody. And I mean, everybody has that question. We've been reaching out to local churches, local counselors, people who handle married married people and deal with marriages. And that's the first question. How is this different from marital counseling? And what we found is that we're not here to analyze who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. That's what a counselor would do. You would go to a counselor and he or she would try to see, okay, what makes you tick? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Why are you who you are? And that's very helpful for couples to understand why their spouse may or may not be behaving in the way that they want them to. But what counselors have told us and what Mediation Stay Married does, it goes a step further. So if you've gone to our website, mediation.healdurene.com, you've seen that it's been endorsed by several counselors who have said, Candace, it sounds like what you're offering is something that's a next step. You've gotten down to the why, but what next? So for example, if I have a husband who I realize is a frivolous spender because for all his life, he never had anything. So he worked his butt off through college to earn money. And now that he's making a very good wage, he doesn't know what to do because he's never had money. We understand the why now. I love him. But how am I going to stay married to this man when I am a budgeter? I watch every penny. I watch every dime. And that's what we do. We come to Mediation to Stay Married and we say, okay, how are we going to stay married with the finances? Does it look like us working out some kind of agreement where your wife is in charge of the budget? Do we give you an allowance? I know that may seem crazy, but if you want to stay married to this man or this woman, we come up with lots of creative ways to figure out how we're going to actually address the marital conflict so now we can make rules of the road for the marriage. And that's where it's different because in talking to counselors, they may assess, okay, I understand why. But they can't really sit down and take the time that it takes to work through the process and figure out what next. And that's what we're here to do, offer you a what next.
So you started on this path of a little bit about the process, but kind of maybe, I guess answer two questions for me. So I can come, say, after I've done marital counseling, but is that the only case? When can I come and start Mediation to Stay Married? When does it all fit in? And then kind of walk us through what is the process?
Okay, that's a great question. Lots of people come to us at different stages. As I mentioned, we have some pastors out there who have us on speed dial. They have couples who they've counseled, they prayed for them, and now these couples need a little bit more. So they may come to us after counseling. But we also have people who have reached out to us through our marketing efforts who have said, I don't want to go to counseling. I'm not a part of a church. I'm not a part of an organization. I don't have a counselor to go to. And I really don't want to go that route. I want to just come to you directly. So you don't have to come to us from a counselor. You can come to us directly and we can work with you. And once we get to you, whether you refer to us from a counselor, whether you're seeing this broadcast and you want to give us a call, the process is very similar as it would be to a regular mediation. You would come to our offices. We have offices in Atlanta, Clayton County, and Henry County. You'd come to one of our offices with your spouse, obviously. Hopefully that's obvious. But you would come and we'll sit down and we'll talk about the issues regarding your marriage. So your spouse will tell me what you think is wrong, what he thinks or she thinks is wrong. You'll tell me, and then we'll start working the mediation process just like we would any other conflict to see if we can resolve it. So that may look like us sitting down, talking about things, coming up with ground rules. That may mean me breaking off with the wife and saying, hey, let's talk. What's going on? Or me breaking up with the husband and saying, when she said this, something clicked in you that was like, oh no, that's not right. But you kind of shut down. Let's talk. And sometimes people want that third party to be able to share and really work through. Also, with my experience, I'm able to come up with things that couples may have never thought of. They may have never thought about this way of dealing with the resolution or this way of dealing with not a resolution, but an issue. And that's where I would come in to kind of help them really start thinking about ways to address their conflict.
Okay. So at the end of the process, so we've come up with some ground rules, I guess, or some ways in which to
address this marriage, to proceed. Keep this together. You know?
So what does that look like? I mean, is it a written document, or how does it?
It just depends.
And how long is the process?
That's perfect. Two great questions. Okay, because I know you all are probably typing, sending us messages.
Yeah, so you answered. I'm gonna check. Yeah.
So basically, the way it works is this: when you come to us, we draft a mediation agreement. And it could be as simple as you all talking to us and we really work out some ground rules, and it can be something that's very loose. You're not going to follow with the court. It's not going to be an actual contract with the court, but it's something that you all are going to use to try to see, is there any way that we can go forward with an agreement? There are some legally enforceable agreements that we can create, though. Let's say the main issue with a couple is finances, and we can do what's called a post-nuptial agreement. And because I'm an attorney, I can draft those for people. And that's where we can do a more legal agreement about some things that are causing us big issues. So if one of the big issues is marital assets, then we can do a post-nuptial agreement about marital assets, whether it's real estate, whether it's finances, and those can be legally enforceable documents. Other things like who's going to do chores on Mondays, not necessarily you're going to take that to a court, but I found that couples really do appreciate the formal agreement process, even if it's not something that they're going to use in a courtroom.
Right. So now what about, well, now you've mentioned the in a courtroom piece. So I guess the question is, what happens if it doesn't work? I know. Well, we know,
Yeah,
a 100% batting average is not really feasible, and it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But, so if it doesn't work, what is that process? And what we've now discussed in mediation, what is carried through to court and what's not?
That's a great question. I will say that all day, but she's asking the perfect questions.
I did my homework.
So if you were to go to court, if for some reason mediation didn't work out, mediation to stay married didn't work out, and you ended up wanting to file a divorce, or your spouse filed a divorce against you, nothing that's shared in mediation can be used against you at court. It's almost like marital counseling. It's completely confidential. We don't allow recording devices in these sessions or anything like that. But let's say someone were to take notes and they went to court and said, in mediation, he said this, this, and that. It cannot be used. A judge will not listen to it. It cannot be made part of the record. I will not be called to testify. I cannot be subpoenaed. So it's the same parameters as with the regular mediation. If you recall from our previous webcast, mediations in general are confidential and things cannot be used in court. The same thing with mediation to stay married. And as I said last time, and I'll reiterate it today, that's invaluable. Because if you know you can come to the table, air out what's really going on with you and your spouse in an effort to work it out, if it's not resolved and you ultimately have to get a divorce, you don't have to worry about that coming back to haunt you. Okay?
That's great. I always love hearing about the confidentiality.
Yes.
It's so huge. It's so huge. All right. So like I said, I did my homework. So I'm going to look at a few of the other notes I took because I did have some questions I wanted to make sure I asked.
Okay.
How long is the process?
Okay. You asked that earlier and I didn't even answer.
Okay.
So you did ask that.
I don't know the answer to this one.
Yes.
Okay.
The process really depends. So as we talked about the last mediation in general, you may come to my office at 9 o'clock in the morning and we go all day long. You can do the same thing with mediation to stay married. However, what we found is in a lot of these cases, parties couples need to do a little bit of homework in between. So let's say we make some ground rules. You really don't know how effective they are for your marriage until you actually try them out. So unlike a business litigation mediation where we say you pay this party this much on the third and the case is done, if we say some different techniques for a marriage, whether it's we're going to budget or we're going to do allowance, whatever, you may need to see how that works for a couple of months and then come back and say, hey, that didn't work. Let's keep talking. Okay. It's not required, obviously, but a lot of times you can have several different sessions, and that's a lot more common in a mediation to stay married setting than it would be in a regular mediation session. Sometimes in mediation to stay married, we may take 2 hours to assess the issues, talk about it, start doing some general temporary agreements, and then you all may come back. Or a couple may say, Attorney DuVernay, that was awesome. I love this. We're not coming back because we won't need to, and that's fine too. So you don't have to come back, but there is an option with all mediations, but specifically with mediation to stay married, where you may have to come back or desire to come back to kind of assess if what we've worked out actually is a good resolution for your marriage. And that's a lot more important in a mediation to stay married setting, because in a regular mediation, as I was explaining to you off camera, in a regular mediation, you pay me my money, I go my own way, or the divorce is final, I'm going my own way. In a mediation to stay married, we've resolved, and then we're going in the car and going home
Yeah.
to live together. So it's a lot more important that the things that we come together and the things that we arrive at actually are going to be feasible for the marriage long term.
Gotcha. Okay. That is a little bit of a different way to look
It
at
is.
it. So, say someone calls you and they go, all right, I heard about mediation to stay married and I would like to go through the process. Is every person, I know you have a team that you work with, are all the mediators attorneys, or are they trained mediators? Like how is that?
Everybody in our office is a trained mediator. So everybody on staff, we have 2 mediators on staff right now that are full-time. That's myself. And we have Brittany Hill, who's also a mediator. And she actually is not an attorney, but she is a trained and licensed mediator. And she actually has a psychology background. So for people who may want more of a counseling, lovey-dovey aspect behind it, then that may be somebody you may say, look, I want to use your services, but I want Brittany.
So are you saying coming to you is not lovey-dovey?
No. I'm just
I understand what you're getting into when you ask for me.
I'm very practical.
Yeah.
I look at things from the scope of I'm married. I'm Christian, so there are things in my background that people may say, I want her. But they may also say, I really don't want an attorney because you're going to be looking at it so logically. But we have somebody that can help you in that regard as well.
Okay, so you can really talk to the couple and see what kind of style is going to fit their needs.
Exactly. With every couple that contacts us, we do a minor assessment. We don't go too far into it. We save that for the actual mediation table. However, people will call and say, hey, look, this mediation may take a while because we have all of these issues to discuss. And that'll give us a better understanding of who needs to be in that room with you all. Because our ultimate goal is, in a mediation to stay married setting, keeping your marriage together, if possible.
Right. All right. So then I guess my next question is, in terms of costs and how cost effective is it? Maybe talk about, the value and in comparisons to other options.
Right. Well, as they always say, the old song is cheaper to keeper. I'm being a little silly.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things,
there's some truth to it.
There's real truth to it. As a divorce attorney, I understand quite well how expensive divorces can be. But even money-wise, in terms of the divorce, the emotional drain, the emotional strain of having to leave somebody that you really do love and that you really want to be with, only because there are some issues in his or her life that you're not quite able, you don't think that you can get over it, but you think maybe it's worth a shot. And I think for couples, I believe our rates are very reasonable. You can call us for our rates. Our rates are very reasonable. We try not to drag out the process. If after a couple of hours we realize you all need some time to actually do your homework, we're not going to keep you there all day. In the same breath, it's really worth it to say, I've been able to get a mediator in here, spend however much, but I'm not spending thousands, because trust me, you're not spending thousands of dollars on mediation to stay married. But the time and money that you do spend will be invaluable compared to the thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars that you will spend hiring a divorce attorney, filing for divorce papers, and splitting up those assets, And like I said, we're not saying every couple needs to stay together. There are certainly some issues where there's abuse going on, where there's neglect going on, where there are some crazy issues that warrant and justify a divorce.
Right.
But what we're saying is, if you really want to save your marriage, if you really are looking for something else, if you tried different options and you want something else, this is a very good, we call it a marital lifeline. I think you might have came up with that phrase. But it really is a lifeline. And you can say, I love my husband, I love my wife, I want to give it a shot. And so as far as cost effective, I don't think you can really put a price on that.
Okay. And I agree with that. I love that. Let's see. Okay, so this question is a little broader, so I'm not sure, how you might want to answer it. But how do I know doing mediation to stay married is right for me? What thoughts am I having? When do I know it might be time to pick up the phone and call?
Well, we actually have a couple of resources. I guess just some general ways to think about it is, I love my husband, but he's really on that last nerve. Or I love my wife, but she just doesn't get it. The things that she's doing, it's not really her. There's something else behind why she's behaving this way. I love my stepchildren, but my wife won't let me raise them. I love my mother-in-law, but she's too much in my business. Those are kind of ideas of things where you love your spouse, but there are true issues that you need to address that have to be addressed. 3 years down the line, 3 months down the line, this is not going to work because it's kind of gnawing away at me. We actually have a checklist on our website that actually helps couples kind of think about, is mediation to stay married right for them? You can go to, like I said, mediation.hillduvernay.com, and you'll be able to click the checklist. It's completely, nobody's sitting around like, oh my gosh, you can check if you want to hear from us, and we'll reach out to you. But other than that, you download the checklist, and then you're able to see, okay, this looks like something that we might want to reach out for Attorney Duvernay for.
Okay, so that's great.
And I will say this, we're not marital counselors. So some people may come to us, we may address some issues, and we may suggest marital counseling. And we do partner with different marital counselors. Some of them are religious, some of them are not, because everybody's not going to the church house for their counseling. So we do have resources for couples in the way of counselors or in the way of maybe some team building. We have a wealth of things that we can share with our couples that they're not necessarily getting. And that's why I was so excited about this practice area, because like I said, you've seen my video. Okay. If we need to go fight, we can. Yeah. But I love the mediation process, and specifically I love it when it is in the realm of mediation stay married.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to check and see if we've had any questions come in.
Okay.
So while I do that, do you have any additional thoughts that you want to share just about mediation to stay married at all?
I would just say while she's checking those questions, that it may seem kind of unorthodox at first to think about going to a mediation table to address some of your most personal issues. It's not your real estate. It's not your car. It's not your property after you filed for divorce, but this is your marriage, something that you've trusted either the church or a judge or justice of the peace to really bring together. And so I would just say, I know some people may feel a little leery about it, but I would say we're trained. We didn't just come up with this yesterday. We're very trained. We're professionals. And we actually care about our clients. We care about people who are coming to us trying to save our marriages. And so I would definitely encourage you to share this with some people or really think about mediation to stay married, because like I said, it's a invaluable tool. And like I said, people have really, specifically pastors and counselors, when they found out that we were doing this, it's like a light bulb went off, like, where have you been?
Yeah.
People need this. Couples need this. And so I'm just excited about being able to offer it, and I hope that this has been able to shed more light for people.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea, the fact that like we said, the last webcast, and if you haven't seen it, we definitely would suggest you go check it out.
Yes.
YouTube, the Hill Duvernay channel, was on mediation in general. And after that, I actually got some calls. I know you got calls.
Yes.
From people saying, wow, I didn't know about mediation as an option in general and all the benefits with, confidentiality, being able to work things out without the cost of the courtroom,
right,
without the emotional toll that you said. And really it's because it's having to deal with relationships where that relationship is a tenant and a landlord, right, or a business relationship. So bringing all those benefits to a marriage,
right,
which everyone says love, but it takes a lot of work.
Tina Turner said it best. What's love got to do with it? Okay, it's deeper than love.
Yeah,
love is what's going to hold it together, but you're gonna have to work.
Yeah. So So I think it's really cool that you offer this for. Love, great, but we've got to live together.
Yes.
We've got to move through life together.
Yes.
How do we do that?
What are our ground rules?
Yeah. So, have you seen, and I'm just asking now, but have you seen a certain type of person, or is it, age, group? Is
anybody?
Yeah.
There are older couples who have issues that younger couples don't deal with. A lot of older couples, we've seen people deal with issues of, I want to retire. She doesn't want me to retire, or all he does is work. My kids they're grown now, the empty nest syndrome, so those are older couples issues. Younger couples, maybe she's not making any money. She's in school. We have bills to pay, And then you may have some middle couples, it may be a second marriage, and now they're trying to decide, how are we going to raise this blended family? How are we going to do these assets? How are we going to deal with our money? So really, you're married, I'm married, and marital conflict can come at any stage in a marriage. And so we are, like I said, we are trained to help assess the conflict and really get down to what it is and address the conflict. And that's what I love about mediation to stay married. But to answer your question, there's not a certain age group that we're seeing more than others. There are people all over the spectrum that need this tool and are being helped by it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw one question that I know for sure we had already answered, but I saw another one, and I can't remember if you alluded to this or not, but so if it doesn't work, are you able to represent one of the parties?
Okay, that's a good question. I cannot represent
Attorney Duvernay. I need you to be my defense attorney,
and we all know
instead of my husband, right? So,
they want Attorney Duvernay. Right. So the answer to that question is no. Okay. However, if the parties wanted to use mediation to do the divorce, so let's say mediation to stay married didn't work, but both parties agree they want a divorce and they want to sit down and devise the assets, devise the property, work on custody, child support, all those issues, I will be able to do that for you, provided both couples agree.
Okay.
So, and that's what I think is beautiful too. Mm-hmm. Most of the time we make good connections with people, staying neutral, but still making good connections with people. And if it doesn't work, then we're able, as long as both parties agree, to work through the process together and get that divorce settled and sent to the court. As long as both parties agree, I'm able to do that.
Okay.
But I cannot go in there and bust your husband's head open or bust your wife's head open because you've just been so in awe of Attorney Duvernay. I cannot do that.
You can't do that. Okay.
No.
So, and that's good to know too. That and it's only fair.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Right.
So I guess that's all the questions. Anything else?
No, like I said, I just wanted to, as always, thank you for helping us put this together. And I wanted to make sure you all knew about our contact information just because it's never too much information out there. So our number is 770-692-8481. Our main website is www.hillduvernay.com. And our mediation website with FAQs, contacts, and the checklist is mediation.hillduvernay.com. And we would love to hear from you. Thank you for the questions that we received, and we look forward to assisting you all.
All right. Yeah. Great. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful night.
Good night.